JD Vance apparently went on Joe Rogan. Here we go. Let's listen to the first one. I guess the first one we'll listen to is the Epstein one, right? Where is the link to this? I guess we'll start with Iran, since we were just talking about Iran, actually. Just go down the list.
You got to kind of use all tools at our disposal. The military is one tool, but diplomacy is another tool. And I'm very frustrated by the Americans and frankly by people in other countries who are like, you cannot negotiate with the Iranians. Well, then what is your proposal to get people to stop shooting at ships in the Strait of Hormuz?
Blow them up, kill them.
You can bomb them. You can take away their radar. You can take away some of their drones and some of their missiles, but it's just too easy to fire at ships in the straits. So you've got to actually be willing to talk and to try to figure out the problem.
You have to get rid of the government and then have the government enforce it and stop the rest of them from doing it.
What is their proposal? The people that think you shouldn't negotiate with Iran.
I think that their proposal is to bomb and bomb and bomb.
Yes.
And the honest view, Joe, is that they do not actually have a solution. If you actually ask them, what do you want us to do? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? You know, they'll say things like, we'll just bomb them to oblivion.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. We can drop a lot of bombs. But what does that accomplish if there's still a crazy person who's still unwilling to shoot a few drones at the Strait of Hormuz?
I don't even see how negotiating with them is going to solve that, personally.
What the president has done, I think very, very capably, is said, we're going to use military force in this situation when it's connected to something we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So if you shoot at ships, we're going to shoot at the facilities at which you used to shoot at the ships.
Yeah, sure.
But we're not just going to do something open-ended indefinitely. We're not just going to bomb and bomb and bomb. We're going to try to use our military force as one of the many tools that we have to solve the problem. And obviously, like, I'm biased, but I think that's exactly the right approach. I actually, I think you have to read between the lines a little bit, because if you look at what Mike Pence or some of the conservative hawks, like people who voted for us but have been very critical of me, very critical of the administration, if you actually look at what they're proposing, they just want the military campaign to go on forever, and they can't actually identify what it is that they're trying to accomplish. None of them can identify what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I read two things between the lines. I think some of them want us to accomplish a complete change in the government of Iran, to
That's what I want.
topple the clerics and to replace those clerics with somebody who's, much friendlier. But like, look, what is our experience with doing that? It's
not
awful.
good.
It's not good, right? And so, like, if the Iranian people want to rise up and change their government, that's up to them. But we're not going to.
It's not, though, right? I mean, if they're getting shot and like massacred in the streets, then you've kind of got to get rid of them. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, like, they tried, and they got massacred.
And 150,000 ground troops in order to accomplish a change in a regime, unless the people on the ground themselves want to accomplish that outcome. Now, we're not going to send the troops in regardless, but like, to propose sending in the troops, you're basically saying that the U.S. military should do the job for the Iranian people. We're not in that business anymore. We're just not. And then I think a second outcome that people are, or whether they're aware of it or not, is what I call the Libya outcome. So if you look at the end result of our Libya policy...
We should have never killed Gaddafi. He was a G. I always thought Gaddafi was super cool. I like the way he dressed. I like the way he acted. The guy was a badass. Should have never got rid of him.
After Gaddafi was killed by the Obama administration, by the way.
I'm not even convinced on Saddam. I'm not. Like, maybe he was a bad guy. But, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, that was our boy. Like, yeah. I mean, I guess we had to get rid of, like, Osama bin Laden, we had to get rid of him, right? Because, like, 9/11. But, like, he lost weight? Yeah.
Again,
Saddam was a psycho? Good. Thank God. Do you think the guy running Syria is not a psycho? He's a total psycho. Great. Amazing. We need somebody like that. He was awful to his people? Good. Keep him under control. Gassed his own people? Which ones?
Very stupid decision. What happened? Libya basically turned into a failed state.
It did.
You had a refugee crisis. You had people
It's a
pouring
shithole.
into Europe, pouring into other
And
parts.
he said that, by the way. Gaddafi said that. Look what he fucking said. Dude. One of the most widely cited quotes from Muammar Gaddafi comes from 2010. Tomorrow, Europe might not even be European or even black, as there are millions who want to come in. We don't know what will happen, what will be the reaction of the white and Christian Europeans faced with this influx of starving and ignorant Africans. Man, if you do not pay me, millions of Africans will come knocking on your door. You're bombing a wall that stood in the way of African migration to Europe. You will burn in hell for thousands of migrants from Africa.
Whether they're aware of it or not, is what I call the Libya outcome. So if you look at the end result of our Libya policy after Gaddafi was killed by the Obama administration, by the way, again, a very stupid decision. What happened? Libya basically turned into a failed state. You had a refugee crisis. You had people pouring into Europe, pouring into other parts of Asia, other parts of Africa. You had a lot of violence, a lot of terrorism come from that. I do think that there are people who...
There it is. He was right. He was right about everything. That was crazy. Thanks, Obama. I know. It's clearly done on purpose, too. Yeah. I think you would support all these wars if they were happening at this moment. Well, yeah, and I don't know about Libya. I was always confused by Libya.
would like that to be the outcome in Iran. But then I say, again, what is in our interest? How is it in the United States' interest to have 94 million desperate people flooding into Europe, flooding into the United States, to have, you know, sort of the terrorist infrastructure that can get established when you fan terrorists all over the world?
He's totally right about this. If he knew that, the higher-ups knew that, exactly, right? That's why Obama's a traitor. Does JD not wanting regime change in Iran make you not want to support him 2028 for president? What have I always said? What have I always said? I don't agree with JD Vance on the outlook on this. I think that Iran is an existential threat, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Like, yeah, if I could pick somebody that more closely aligns with... If I could pick somebody that's 10 out of 10, I'd pick somebody who's 10 out of 10. But if I have to pick somebody who's 8 or 9 out of 10, I'm going to pick somebody who's 8 or 9 out of 10. I'm not going to go and let somebody who's 1 out of 10 go and be the person instead of somebody who's 9 out of 10. Yeah, like, I mean, let's say, like, if it comes down to vote, like, would I vote for JD Vance? Absolutely, I would. Same with Marco Rubio. I immediately would. Absolutely. Why is that? It's because I agree with most of what they're doing, and I think that they move things in a direction that's beneficial to me. Now, would there be other people that I would want to vote for instead of that? Yes, I think so. Would I want somebody who's more extreme in some cases? Yes, I would. But I don't think that that's not always realistic, and you have to be realistic. And so what I do is I look at what is the next step, not what's the last step. What's the next step? And you take steps 1 at a time. Every once in a while, 2 at a time. But usually 1 or 2 at a time. You having to say this makes me wonder how people vote. I think that there is not a wrong way to vote. The only wrong way to vote is the way somebody else tells you to vote. I'm giving you my reasoning, and I think this is the way people should vote. But if you don't agree with the way that I see things and you think that things are different, you have every right to vote for something different. Does that make sense? So yeah, you don't need a tyrant to rule over religious you need a tyrant to rule over religious fanatics. I agree with that. Yes, definitely. You used to say you didn't vote because you didn't believe in choosing the lesser of two evils candidates, but now you're saying you'd vote for that. What changed your philosophy? What changed? Because yeah, I used to say not voting for lesser of two evils. The reality is that it's a case-by-case basis decision. That's really what it comes down to more than anything. It's a case-by-case basis decision, and I don't do or make any decision on anybody. Like, I have general principles that I make decisions on, but Each individual decision specifically is going to be decided specifically, right? That, yeah, the lesser evil. Yeah, right. I mean, that's a case by case. Exactly. And I think also, like, I think I downplayed the cultural value of it. I think that the cultural value and the cultural implications of Trump winning the election were a lot larger than just simply what happens in Iran. I think that him winning the election has made a lot of impact in terms of, like, for example, how people see the country, or how they see, you know, America, or, you know, how they see things like DEI. And I think that the cultural value of that means a lot. And it's always better to have a win than an L. That's the way I would see it. And also, here's another angle for it, is that
You got to kind of use
like
all.
South Africans are getting murdered at, like, you know, very high rates by, like, random crazy people, and they're being murdered in a racial way, like they're being killed racially. And because of that, there are a lot of South Africans that are just simply totally okay with this, because they'd rather be murdered than be racist. And so there are a lot of people, I've realized, that will literally go down with their ship. And I think the best way to handle that is to just make it happen as fast as possible. Anyway, let me go back. Okay, here we go. Let me look at this.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Yeah, that means I'm going to start until 10:30. I was thinking to myself, well, holy shit, that means I'm going to go to bed at like 4 a.m. I'm going to look like a total crazy person when I'm trying to go talk about this book. But yeah, it amazingly it did work out. Honestly, it actually helped a little bit, because
You could do that.
what's crazy about it to me is just how much the sport has replaced boxing. And like, there's still, obviously boxing is still a big deal, and fighters still get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
But like, I remember when I was, I don't know, in high school, I feel like
Elevate the hips up and pull it way back. So we'd almost.
I think the reason why MMA is more entertaining than boxing is another really big reason is that there aren't really any big names in boxing that are super interesting. Like Mike Tyson, people came to see Mike Tyson fight. People came to see Muhammad Ali fight. People would even come to see, I think those are the two goats of boxing, right? But then you have the people under that, like George Foreman, Floyd Mayweather even, right? And like these guys, I think that the personalities really do carry MMA. MMA in a weird way is almost like wrestling, but it's actually real. The guys are actually retarded and they're actually fighting. Big difference.
Be
So you'd, like,
bridging.
bend it.
He would
Yeah.
be on the top
Yeah.
of his shoulders and bridging, and then he would have broken his arm. The
Yeah.
other option is you pull it off to the side like this,
yeah.
and you put it to the side of your hip, and you can.
Kill Tony. Do you remember he told like the Joker around the world in Madison Square
Oh,
Garden
yeah.
during the 2024 election? I remember getting into an argument with somebody about this, and I may have even been like in an interview, but I don't remember. It could have been private too. Anyway, I'm like, he told a joke.
That wherever they were living was not tenable.
Yeah.
It was falling apart. And
Okay.
all of these places like New York
Fighters
and
are very intelligent when I'm talking. I'm joking around. Like, obviously, a lot of the MMA fighters are very intelligent, and they're not all dumb retards, right? I'm joking about it, but like my point is that I'm friends with a couple of these people, right? I've talked to them before. Like, they're really nice, good guys. Like, like many of them are. Some are, yeah, of course some are, right? I mean, but like overall, I think that's the same as anything. My point is, though, is that MMA, I think that it better, like boxing and MMA are male sports. These are male activities. Women aren't watching MMA. Women aren't watching boxing. And to the extent that they are, it's at a like 20-to-1 ratio. It is overwhelmingly combat sports are for men. And MMA being run by a bunch of fucking beefy bald guys that let people say whatever the fuck they want and there are no rules to it is exactly what every young guy wants to watch. That's it.
California, like especially Los Angeles and San Francisco, they're falling apart.
Sure are.
And I have a bunch. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Why is it that large population centers, like places like Los Angeles and New York, are almost always run by the Democrats?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about? First of all, what happened with the last election?
Oh my God, this is literally the worst clip I've ever seen in my entire life. Let me go to the next one.
This is a dude who knew everybody. He knew everybody.
Jeffrey
So,
Epstein.
look,
So where
don't
did his
know.
money come from?
well, from given part of it is suspect tax advice and setting up tax schemes for a lot of very, very rich people.
Right, but why was
I think JD just held back on that. I think that he's like, well, ooh. I think he held back on that. Did you guys notice that? Watch it again? Yeah.
Well, from given part of it is
I think that
suspect tax advice and setting up tax schemes for a lot of very, very rich people.
right, but why was
And
he
possibly
motivated to influence academia, and what was the purpose?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I honestly can answer that. He's a control freak. He's a guy that wanted to control everything that everybody around him did. I don't think that you can, like, it was pathological with him. Like, he was trying to tell Bobby Kotick how to run Call of Duty. Unfortunately, Bobby Kotick listened. And now, like, Jeffrey Epstein was suggesting microtransactions. He's a control freak. He's a narcissist, yeah.
I have theories. There's of course the
Well, most people think he was Mossad.
Mossad or CIA or some other deep state, whether in America or Israel or another
Or
country, or both. Look, he clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence.
sure did.
He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israeli intelligence.
He
He's
sure
a dude who knew
did.
everybody. He knew everybody.
That's crazy. Do you think there's still Epstein investigations going on? I'm sure there are here and there, but yeah. Oh, here. Uh-oh. JD Vance says he's being accused of being an Israel. Here we go.
But again, when I open up the pages of Time magazine and I see that there's a literal foreign influence campaign being funded to tank the very deal that I was pursuing, and oh, by the way, many of the people who were receiving that money were actually attacking me in completely dishonest ways, my response to that is, well, go to hell. I'm going to do what I have to do for the American people. I represent Americans first, and that's the way that I've tried to do this job. And Joe, the crazy thing is, I'm like, people don't realize this. I'm actually in this, there's this massive pro-Israel, anti-Israel debate in the United States of America. I'm like the reasonable moderate. And I think that's what so many people don't realize.
I agree with him on this. I think that he's not super pro-Israel. He's not super anti-Israel. He seems like he's kind of in the middle. He's reasonable about it, yeah.
I've been accused of being an anti-Semite.
Oh.
I've been accused
For
of,
what reason?
For what?
quite literally for, I've been accused of trying to, I guess some people say that I've insulted the Jewish religion, which is insane.
Really?
Like I have a ton of respect for the Jewish religion. I mean, if you talk
what
about,
specifically did you say?
I don't know. I've never heard a good, compelling argument for why I'm an anti-Semite, even though I've been accused of being an anti-Semite by many people.
Did you disagree with something that Israel did? You did? Okay, well then there you go. That's why.
But what I say to these guys is
Classic.
Look at public
Classic
opinion.
mistake.
Look at the way young Republicans versus Republicans over the age of 65 approach this issue.
Yeah, it's literally like the opposite. Where like old Republicans like 80-20 support Israel, and young Republicans 80-20 don't support Israel.
Like right now, Israel
Crazy
is
difference.
losing the public opinion battle in the United States of America. It is a simple and obvious fact.
The Vice President of the United States just said that publicly. That's fucking crazy. Oh my God. I think that's a really big deal.
Trump has said that publicly. It's a simple and
Why
obvious
do you think
fact.
that is?
Well, let me finish this point.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my attitude towards this is Israel is an ally. Like France or like the United Kingdom,
Sure.
we're going to have disagreements with them. We're going to have agreements with them. There are areas where we're going to have similar interests and areas where our interests are going to diverge. So my approach to this is to say, you know what? When we're partnered, great, let's work together. And we're not, let's just be honest about it. And
by the way, this is exactly what I've said this is what I want to hear. This is exactly the way that I feel.
Yes. People attack me for being an anti-Semite or anti-Israel, and they don't see the writing on the wall that I'm actually just the guy advocating for a normal relationship with a normal country that's based around shared interest as opposed to based around, something else. So why is Israel losing American public opinion?
Well, the narrative is that Israel...
Oh, he doesn't want to answer it. I'm going to answer it right now. Number one, anti-Semitism is the OG racism, and if you import a bunch of people from countries that have that racism built into what they do in the country, the way that they feel, it's part of their culture, then yes, obviously that's the case. You're bringing in foreign identity politics. It's the same as if you bring in a bunch of Somalians, you're going to have those people that, they have problems with people in Kenya, right? I mean, that's it. So that's number one. So you change demographics. Those demographics come from places that have different viewpoints on this topic. You're going to have a change. It's the same thing as if you bring in people from, like the Middle East and you ask, why is gay support going down? Geez, guys, it's a fucking mystery. So that's number one. Number two, the videos of them bombing Gaza and all the kids crying, all the children being displaced, etc. It looks bad. Whether you think it is bad or not is not relevant. It does look bad. And for a lot of people, I think especially women, they see that and it scares them and it upsets them and it makes them not like Israel. I think that's another factor. I think another third factor is AIPAC. AIPAC and the fact that we have all these Israeli flags flying around in our congressmen's rooms, I think that's a huge problem. I see an Israel flag in an American congressman's fucking office and I want to send that guy over to fucking Israel. I'd say the same thing with Somalia. I'd say the same thing with fucking anywhere else. Like, if you think this country is so great, get the fuck out of here and go over there. And so anyway, Ted Cruz is one of them. Randy Fine are one of them. And I like Ted Cruz. I like Randy Fine. But the reality is that fuck you. You can't do that. Get that fucking flag out of here. You're an American, Mike Huckabee. Yeah, there you go. And so there's that. And then on top of that, there is the reframing of criticism of Israel to criticism of Jewishness and anti-Semitism categorically, and then assigning that a unique evil that is separate and different than any other form of racism, as if they have the monopoly on being oppressed. I think on top of that, it is Israel, AIPAC, ADL, and all these other, tangentially aligned organizations that are trying to create ways that they can socially pressure people into not criticizing their country's decisions. Like, for example, like making rules and like trying to do censorship and stuff like this. So all those are the reasons why people hate Israel. I would say those are, and that's in no particular order, by the way. But like, those are the reasons why people hate Israel.
Has a very disproportionate effect on American politics.
Yeah, I see that narrative. I actually think that...
Bro, like, how are you going to say it's not true whenever there's... how many people have other flags of, like, France, the UK, Germany flying around in their offices? It's only Israel. We have dozens of other allies around the world that we have close relationships with, whether it's Japan, Canada, even Mexico to a lesser extent, but especially the European countries. There's probably another one that I'm not thinking of right now that's a big ally. But in general, we have a lot of these allies, but we're never actually activating on that on the same level that we do with Israel. We don't see their flags. Australia. You don't see any of these other flags around. It's only Israel flags. That's the reason. And by the way, it's the same thing that I said with like the Helen of Troy, DEI casting stuff, all this bullshit. Average people, like, this is what's crazy about the human mind, is that a lot of people understand when something's fucky, but they might not have the critical thinking skills or the IQ to be able to really verbalize why they think it's fucky.
But their brain, their instinctual, ape brain, lizard brain in the very back of their mind tells them, because it's evolved for thousands of years to notice these trends and to exist subconsciously, and it's telling them something's not quite right. Something's not... I'm detecting a pattern here, and they might not even understand it, but it's there.
They look. Do they try to influence American politics? Yes, but like I said earlier, a lot of other countries do.
Yeah, of course.
I think
to the extent that Israel does.
I think some are better at it than others. I think the Israelis are definitely more effective at it than most. But I wouldn't say that they're the only effective country by any means that tries to influence American politics. I just think you have to be self-aware about it. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's a country of 9 million people. We have 330 million people, and so of course they're going to try to persuade Americans. They're going to try to move Americans in one direction or another. I think that's just the nature of the beast.
I think Israel is unique too, because Israel is a projection of Western and American power in the Middle East. That's basically why, that's why Israel is different.
More than that, the concern is that they're spying on American politicians, that there's concerns about funding, there's concerns about influence, there's concerns about whether or not politicians are, whether they're aligned with Israel or whether they're aligned with the United States first.
Exactly.
Well, there's certainly, I definitely get those concerns, but my sense is that the way that all foreign influence works in the United States is people try to manipulate American public opinion. And then from manipulating a public opinion, they try to get the outcomes that they want. I mean, this thing...
He's right. I mean, he's obviously right.
...is a very good example of this.
I think, and I do think that JD Vance is right about this, but I think that he has to have stronger messaging about either... He has to either go in one direction or another. I think that he's too wishy-washy about it right now. And he's just he's saying, I understand how you feel. And I don't think that's enough for these people one way or another. It's not enough for the pro-Israel people because they're like, well, then why aren't you helping us? And it's not enough for the anti-Israel people. It's like, well, why aren't you calling out this foreign influence, right? Because I do think that, yes, Israel is way, way better at, foreign influence than, let's say Zimbabwe is. So, yes, while other countries are trying to influence American politics, we have to look at which countries are doing it, which countries are effective, how they're doing it, and if the way that they're doing it is beneficial to America at all, or if it's just purely damaging. So, yeah, that's the way I would see it. And let me see. Oh, yeah, this is a voter ID.
And I think they cheat. And I think they've been doing it forever. And I don't think there's any other reason why you would have no voter ID. And they try to say, oh, it's racist to have voter ID.
Is it racist to buy alcohol?
What are you talking about? Do you think other races are incapable of going to the DMV? That's insane.
Yeah, that's racist. It's actually super racist.
That's really racist.
Right, the implication of their argument is literally blacks and Hispanics cannot go to the DMV to get an ID. By the way, if you look at the...
He just says it. He just fucking oh my God.
Black Americans are as pro-voter ID. Even though most Black Americans vote Democrat, they're still pro-voter ID as much as white Americans is.
Most Americans are voter ID. They want voter ID except for operatives.
So I'll offer on the Joe Rogan podcast this deal as vice president of these United States that if Democrats really don't think that there's any cheating, give us voter ID.
I just don't know
give
how
us voter
it's
ID. And we'll stop talking so much about elections.
Why is that not a federal thing?
We are trying to make it a federal thing. So we are right now trying to pass this
crazy they don't have voter ID.
Save America Act. One of its main provisions is a requirement that you do voter ID. And we actually have, I think, a majority of the Senate that would
completely fucking agree on this one, right? Yeah. Corrupt emotional retards. I know, man. And then here we go. Is this more Jeffrey Epstein stuff?
He clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence.
Part of this I saw.
He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israel. And I try to make this point. It's one of the reasons why I'm always careful And I say there are some elements within the Israeli government who don't like our peace process, because there are a lot of elements within the Israeli government that actually do like our peace process.
The Israeli government is probably the same as the American government, where it's comprised of a bunch of people with different political opinions. There are probably some people who think Benjamin Netanyahu is amazing and some people who think that he's evil.
Recognize
probably,
that this
right?
indefinite campaign is not good for them either. And the Epstein thing is interesting because as much as I know, Prime Minister Netanyahu, not a particularly popular person in the United States of America right now, Epstein seemed to be connected to the elements of the Israeli deep state that were left of center. Like, I've always found that fascinating. It wasn't like he was super connected to the right of center of Israeli politics. America, he was connected across.
He was across the board. Yeah, that's true. And what is this here? JD Vance admits Joe Rogan is guilty of mishandling Epstein file release. That's true. Absolutely.
But I definitely think you have seen this very discreet, extremely well-funded campaign to try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal. And, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country.
You see, this is the kind of stuff that universal suffrage creates. Because if you had everybody that was smart voting, like only landowners voting, for example, you wouldn't have this garbage happening because people would be able to see through this garbage. But because everybody can vote, we have this total, the goy herding. This is why it has to happen.
So
what is their position? Like, they're attacking you how?
Oh, it's social media posts. It's they're leaking to reporters. They're attacking me obsessively, saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran. We should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely, and that is their explicit position. And coming after me, saying that people have come after me and say that I'm influenced by Qatar, that I'm influenced by foreign governments, that I take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson, and there's just so much bullshit out there. When what I'm actually trying to do is accomplish what the President of the United States told me to accomplish, which is a settlement of this that accomplishes our objectives.
Amazing.
Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. We have the free flow of oil and gas. And like, I should be clear, I don't actually mind. I don't mind that let's say certain elements of the Israeli government want to criticize the deal or have disagreements about the deal.
Of course, that's what's going to happen.
I don't even mind an effort to try to influence, foreign governments try to influence the United States all the time.
I do mind that. I have a problem with that, and I think that we should look at that as an external threat. We should. Like, these are people that are trying to, and it's a matter of how they're doing it. It's like, it's one thing if you're telling people the truth. It's another if you're lying.
Israel does it. Other countries do it. It's just sort of the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
What bothers me is actually when Americans meaning American leadership, allows that influence to affect their judgment.
It's because everybody can vote. If everybody can vote, you immediately default down to the lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator is a complete goy cattle retard that's going to hear anything like that and immediately lose their mind.
And to affect
that's the reason why.
What they are advocating for. That's what really bothers me. People are always going to try to influence the United States of America, whether they're allies of ours or whether they're enemies of ours. But again, when I open up the pages of Time magazine and I see that there's a literal foreign influence campaign being funded to tank the very deal that I was pursuing, and oh, by the way, many of the people who were receiving that money were actually attacking me in completely dishonest ways, my response to that is, well, go to hell. I'm going to do...
Yeah, fuck off. Like, what is this? Yeah, exactly. And let me see if I can find any more of these here and pull it up. And I don't know if there's any more of these other posts to say before. Definitely the armbar part. Oh, no, it's not that. Blow up the Iran deal. Oh, L.A. reminds him of a third world country. Uh-oh.
Skid Row is now 55 blocks. It was 50 blocks just like a year or two ago.
Wait,
okay,
so
my first experience with Skid Row was... So Usha used to work at this like very fancy litigation firm in Southern California. Before she was second lady, she was a corporate litigator. So there's a Christmas party in downtown LA. And you get these instructions from her firm, and they're like this really convoluted way of, this is how you have to get to this Christmas party. And I'm like, why do I have to follow these directions? Why don't I just put it in Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
This is like 5 or 6, 7 years ago. So we realized that the reason why they gave you these convoluted directions was so that you could avoid Skid Row at night.
You have to drive around them.
And so you get to this party.
Oh
you
my
drive
God.
through Skid Row if you follow Google Maps' directions. You get there, and it's like this beautiful facility with like fancy food and fancy wine. And then there are armed guards outside of it and these gigantic walls. And I realized when I was there, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of going to the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Like...
I can't believe they have him on here just wilding out saying this shit. Holy fuck, man.
Super security, crazy wealth and privilege and status on the inside, and squalor and misery on the outside. Like, it's the first time I'd ever thought America, like, this part of America is actually more like a third world country than anything that I thought we'd ever become.
Holy fuck, man. He just, okay, well, there you go. And I don't know what to say. It's just fucking insane to see that. It's worse than a third world country. This episode is great. I'll watch probably one more. This is the other big one.
It's just very disheartening that you have to consider the fact that it's really possible that the elections get stolen. And the California one was a big one for me.
And why not just have mail-in, or why not just have voter ID?
Yeah.
You actually
that's
saw...
insane. Not only did they not have voter ID, you can't show your ID. You're not allowed to show your ID.
You can, in fact, be like prosecuted if you try to force somebody to show their ID.
Which is... That seems like you want people to cheat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's
you know what I always say? If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it acts like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. They're probably cheating. The reason why it looks like cheating is because they're probably cheating.
It's from the same people that were saying you have to have an ID that shows you've been vaccinated just 4 years ago.
To go to grocery shopping or to go to a restaurant. Yeah, no, it's definitely...
That's another good point, yeah. Again, like, these are the same people that wanted you to have a vaccine passport to go to the grocery store. Says that you aren't allowed to have an ID to vote for the mayor.
That's the part about it that I think makes most people of my political persuasion skeptical of what the Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to cheat in the election, then just make everybody actually show an ID. Another thing people don't realize is, I didn't realize this until a couple years ago, the voter ID solves a lot of the mail-in ballot problem. Because if you have to show an ID in order to get a mail-in ballot, in order to actually, confirm that there's a real identification.
Of course. Wait a minute. You don't have to give them an ID to get a mail-in ballot? What? Well, then how can they be sure they're sending it to the person that... Really? What the fuck? I assume that you...
Match that vote, that solves a big chunk of the problem.
This is just logical.
Yes.
Like, I'm not
every country does it.
I'm not skeptical. I'm accusing them. I think they stole the election.
Yes.
And I think it's common. And this idea that elections can't be stolen. I always say,
why not? Why not? Yeah, I mean, of course they're going to cheat.
I mean, these are the same people that cheat. Remember they said, there's no fraud in Minnesota. Well, there's a little, well, Nick Shirley's just there to record. Okay, all right, they got arrested. But what about that guy got arrested too. Okay, well, there's no fraud account. Well, what about all the hospitals? Oh, wait, there's no hospices. It's like, again, I wonder if the people that are cheating on everything else are also cheating on this. It's insane.
People. Okay. Do you think that the amount of election fraud is 0%? No one thinks that.
Nobody thinks
No one thinks it's zero.
Exactly.
There's always some overzealous person that works somewhere that's doing something. There's always crazy people that like blue no matter who, we got to win, or red no matter what. There's always people, right and left, that are going to try to rig the election because they think it's imperative.
They have to do it.
We saw.
Think about if you actually think that Donald Trump is Hitler, and you really think that he's this evil, terrible rapist pedophile that's going to kill everybody, and he's going to become a tyrant, and he's going to destroy the United States and everything. If you really think that, imagine the mind of a person who believes this. Of course they're going to go to extreme lengths to stop that. Duh.
There was people like Oprah Winfrey was saying it. Like, if we don't win this election, you may never vote again. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why? Who's going to tolerate that? Left or right? That's crazy.
That's right.
But that attitude allows people to justify cheating.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think they cheat. And I think they've been doing it forever. And I don't think there's any other reason why you would have no voter ID. And they try to say, oh, it's racist to have voter ID. Like, what are you talking about? Do you think other races are incapable of going to the DMV? That's insane.
Yeah, that's racist. It's actually super racist.
That's really racist.
Right, the implication of their argument is literally like blacks and Hispanics cannot go to the DMV to get an ID. By the way, if you look at the polling, Black Americans are as pro-voter ID. Even though most Black Americans vote Democrat, they're still pro-voter ID as much as white Americans is.
Most Americans are voter ID. They want voter ID, except for operatives.
So I'll offer on the Joe Rogan podcast this deal as vice president of these United States, that if Democrats really don't think that there's any cheating, give us voter ID.
I just don't know
give
how
us voter
it's
ID,
not.
And we'll stop talking
Why
so much
is that
about
not
elections.
a federal thing?
We are trying to make it a federal thing. So we are right now trying to pass the Save America Act. One of its main provisions is a requirement that you do voter ID. And we actually have, I think, a majority of the
We can't do voter ID because Democrats won't win elections anymore.
Senate that would support it.
Oh, really?
But this is just weird Senate
Very
procedural bullshit. There is a subsegment of people who want voter ID but won't blow up the filibuster in order to achieve it. And so they're so married to these old world Senate procedures.
Exactly, bro. Like, that's I'm so glad that he sees this. Yes, these old fucking retarded dinosaurs that refuse to go extinct are so fixated around the policies and the procedures and the protocols that they don't care about what the problems are. That's it.
That they're going to make it impossible for us to pass Save America.
God.
Now, we are, for what it's worth, trying to fix that and trying to address these like weird procedural, archaic things.
Who cares
it's
about
insane,
the procedure?
Though. Like, have you ever? Okay, I'm sure you hear people talk about the filibuster all the time.
Yeah,
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. Here's what the filibuster is. It is a pure Senate rule. It is a creation of the Senate procedures, which basically says that anything that has to do with the budget is a 50-vote threshold. And everything else, non-budgetary, is a 60-vote threshold. Now, as you can imagine, there's some gray area on things that maybe count as budget issues and should be 50, or are not budget issues and count at 60. So what we have tried to persuade the Senate to do is to treat the voter ID as something that can fall within the 50-vote threshold. And there is no law, there's no provision in the Constitution. It is legitimately that there are senators who are so attached to the idea that budget is 50, non-budget is 60, that they're quite literally...
Then just add in paying for everybody's voter ID. Why can't they... Well, wait a minute. Couldn't they just add in the idea of giving everybody an ID? And like you could like, wouldn't that I don't know. Like, I have no idea, but like, wouldn't that work? Like, no, you can't do that. That's ridiculous.
Then it's budgetary. Like I feel like that'd be budget, right? I mean, I don't know anything.
Voter ID in America.
Yeah, that's too much logic. Yeah, why does it cost money anyway? I have no idea. And next fraud is ID centers giving out IDs to millions. Yeah, but like obviously you have to check about couldn't disenfranchise millions of eligible citizens, i.e.g. those without access to birth certificates, married women with name changes, seniors, Native Americans, those relying on mail-in voting. No, I don't believe that. And I think that if you end up getting disenfranchised because you have to provide an ID, it's probably because you're a fucking retard. Like, and that's something that people might, like, JD Vance isn't going to say this, but I'll say it. If you can't figure out how to get an ID, you are so incompetent and stupid that you have no business making decisions for the country. If you are so old that you can't figure out how to get an ID, then I don't want you voting because you're going to be dead in 3 years anyway. It doesn't even matter. If you're married and you can't get an ID, it's because you're retarded. You're stupid. Like, if you are so stupid that you can't figure out how to do that, then you don't deserve to fucking vote. And if you are from a culture that doesn't have any IDs, whether it's Native American or an immigrant culture, and you are so far disconnected from the American experience that you don't even have a photo ID, then I don't want you voting in our presidential elections because you're fundamentally not really part of the country. Like, you don't even have a fucking ID and you want to vote for the president? Get the fuck out of here. So I think there was one more example. Oh, black people. Yes, black people don't know where the DMV is. Yeah, I think they do. So, yeah, it's just ridiculous. Native Americans have an ID card, though. It's a card that says they're Native American. I've seen it. Well, then, yeah, just have them use that instead. What do you mean? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. Okay, this is the last one, gentlemen. Maybe, okay, all right, maybe two, because this next one probably is really good. This is about the Epstein files, okay?
But if people want to say we mishandled the Epstein release, guilty.
You did. You fucked up. You fucked up massively, and it was the beginning of the end of public support for the Trump campaign, because this was one of the main things that people online cared about, and you totally fucked it up. You did.
Did mishandle, especially the communications of it.
What do you think should have been done?
I think that we should have just dropped everything at the very beginning, and like
fucking exactly. Yes, you should.
It takes a little time to review the stuff, to find the stuff, to redact things where you have victims and so forth. But we should have just done it as quickly as possible.
But some of the stuff that was redacted, some of the names that were redacted weren't victims.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've looked into this, and my understanding of this, having looked at a lot of this but not all of it, is that it is sometimes hard to draw a distinction between victim and co-conspirator. And like, let me highlight this in a very sort of obvious way. Ro Khanna, who's been one of the loudest voices on the Epstein file. Well, he became very loud on the Epstein files the minute Donald Trump became president. Didn't seem to care about it during the Biden administration. He actually brought one of the Epstein victims, I think, to the State of the Union last year, or maybe it was the year before last. Well, like that victim, and I'm not saying she wasn't a victim. I don't know anything about her particular case. She was also listed as a co-conspirator in some of these documents, right? So there's an idea that some of the people who were engaged in the sex trafficking were also...
This is very common, is that what he did, is Jeffrey Epstein did, is that he had girls that he had previously abused and sex trafficked. Then he took them and made them sex traffic and abuse the new set of girls after them. This is extremely common.
Facilitating it as well.
So they were incentivized to get more girls.
Yeah, but yes, that's right. But the idea is that it's hard to sort of, it's sometimes a little bit of a gray area between, some of the people who were alleged victims were also alleged co-conspirators. And so what DOJ tried to do was kind of make that judgment as best they could and release as much as possible.
Again, I think that they totally fucked it up. I'm glad that he's right. He's saying that they fucked it up. I'm very, very glad to hear that.
Pass too broad of a brush here, but it's like, Gavin Newsom did this speech a few months ago. The president, I think it's the funniest thing ever, because he's like speaking to a group of black leaders and black businessmen, but it's like an audience that is 95% black. And they're asking him about his dyslexia and his struggle with education. And he basically says, I'm not very smart like a lot of you. And it's like,
I'm like you. I can't even read.
It's like,
Meanwhile, there's a ton of interviews where he's talking about all the books he reads. Like, he's so full of shit.
Yeah.
Can you believe that the vice president is saying this? Oh my fucking God.
He's
full of shit, but it's
admirably full of shit.
Yeah.
I admire.
It's impressive
the sheer
is.
tenacity that he has in being full of shit.
Because
it's amazing.
It really is amazing. But it speaks to the incentives of
He is a complete
there's kind of like,
bullshitter.
look, there's a real populism that I'm very much past too broad of a brush here, but it's like,
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't get that. The brand is, it's nuts, man. JD is one of us, yet somehow he became president. I guess so, right? And we even read it, the rape gang report. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, you're right about that. There's a lot of those examples. And definitely, let me scroll back down. I'm going to look at these other ones here and find everything else, because there's been a bunch of other bullshit that happened. And JD Vance, the elections were very suspicious. Uh-oh. Spencer Pratt retweeted this.
What happened with the last election in Los Angeles, just the primary, I think was
crazy.
So super sus.
That was
and here's why it's super sus. Not just super sus that Spencer Pratt, who was in second place, got overtaken by Nithya Raman in the mail-in ballots, but that the mail-in ballots also passed a tax hike. The people voted to pay more taxes.
Yep.
In a state where you have the highest
taxes. That's right.
They're like, we don't.
What the fuck? Give me a minute. I'll be right back. And good pause, right? And he's back. Okay, sorry about that. We're back.
Pay enough. That is insane. Then when you have direct evidence that they were recruiting homeless people.
That's right.
And they were getting homeless people and giving them cigarettes and cash. There's evidence of this. To use their address and mail-in ballots.
Yep.
Yeah, I would be the Californian Joe who wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I'm going to go and vote for higher taxes.
I don't pay enough.
I don't pay enough taxes.
I feel like we could fix this if I just pay
if I just pay 5% more taxes.
5% more is going to solve all the problems.
The crazy thing about it, too, is it's that, okay, so after the initial ballots all came in, it was Karen Bass was number one, Spencer Pratt was right behind her, and then number three, whatever this woman's name is. Nithya Raman. Okay. So
know her name.
You would expect the mail-in ballots to be more or less like the original ballots in terms of 1, 2, and 3. I'm not saying Spencer Pratt's going to win the mail-in ballot, but it just so happened that the third place person in relative terms did a lot better than the first and second place person.
Disproportionately better.
Such that the Republican was actually kicked out of the race so that there's not actually a real election in California. That, to me, was the crazy part. It's like you were designing the vote share in order to kick Pratt out and put the third person into second place. That, to me, is like very, very bizarre. Because what is the theory of the mail-in vote that is somehow like so much more pro-Nithya relative to Karen Bass?
Makes no
Exactly. It's not about Spencer Pratt. It's about her outperforming Karen Bass to such a wide margin.
Makes no sense.
That was exactly
Makes no sense.
it.
Why would it be?
Yeah.
Why would it be? I mean, Karen Bass was ahead by every metric.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. If you just extrapolated that, it would make perfect fucking sense.
What happened?
Anyway, let me scroll down and look at some of these other ones.